Today marks exactly a year after the National Assembly went up in flames. Firefighters in the Western Cape worked for 71 hours at the time to contain the blaze. The fire affected both the Old Assembly and National Assembly buildings of Parliament. Newzroom Afrika's Erin Bates is following that story and joins us live from Parliament this morning. Erin, it's actually really hard to believe. Let me first say good morning to you and wish you a happy new year as well, since it's the first time we're talking for 2023. But it's hard to believe that it's been just 1 year since the fire at Parliament.
Happy New Year to you and the team back at head offices too, Michelle. And you're quite right. I mean, I think a very different atmosphere at the beginning of 2023 when we heard that just after 5 a.m. on the 2nd of January, a fire had broken out. That call coming through to douse the flames, which, as you say, gutted the National Assembly, also affecting other parts of Parliament's precinct, including some offices, the gymnasium, water damage from the firefighting, also affecting other floors of parliamentary buildings. You can still see the damage today, an estimated 2 billion rand to do those repairs. 1 year on, they're not yet complete. And reflecting on the last big parliamentary event of 2022, that debate on the Section 89 panel report happened at the City Hall, some blocks from here, because the National Assembly, where the business of the publicly elected officials who serve the people of South Africa, their premises still not ready for business as we enter the 2023 year and parliamentary year.
So the question, I suppose, Erin, is, when do they reckon those repairs can actually get underway? We've been told that estimates around the cost of repairs, around 2 billion rand.
Yes, that's right. And getting a consolidated sort of picture on what had happened with the fire and what it would take to do the repairs took several months last year. We had initial reports from Parliamentary Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa Nkwakula within about 7 days of the fire, which broke out on the 2nd of January. There was that arrest of Zandile Christmas Mafe the same day by the Hawks. And he then made an appearance in court on the 11th. He was remanded in custody in the interim. But in terms of the actual research into what had happened and how to repair it, an initial report presented in Parliament in April, subsequent information then provided up to September. And as you can see behind me, it's still in some state of disrepair. And Michelle, I must share, I have friends who were climbing on the mountain the day of the 2nd of January 2022 when that fire broke out. A little bit jaundiced or cynical, you could say, but apparently some on the mountain seeing the home of the Parliament of the people of South Africa burning were so sort of disaffected about governance in South Africa and our public officials that some hikers allegedly said, let it burn. There weren't security personnel on site. The CCTV cameras were not being monitored. It took firefighters over 2 days to douse the flames. And in fact, the roof of the National Assembly, which I think you're seeing now, had a secondary fire on the 3rd of January 2022. So the whole thing cost billions of rand in damage, has impaired the work of the National Assembly and Parliament more broadly, in some respects incurring costs. There are costs involved in having meetings at the City Hall, and all not yet wrapped up a full year later.
Yeah, absolutely. A beautiful morning there in Cape Town, Erin. I'm sure as our viewers are watching, a sense of January 2nd and the vibe there in Cape Town, if there is a vibe, on this Monday morning at 7 o'clock, 7 minutes after 8 o'clock.
Tweede Nuwe Jaar, of course, an important event on the Cape Town calendar. You'll see the grills around Parliament today, not because of the fire a year ago, because troops from across the Western Cape are expected to proceed through the city streets today. There'll be a lot of gees. There'll be a lot of geraas as well, spirit and noise, as those minstrel troops who've been practicing their numbers come through the city. And so, yes, as we move into this fresh new year, that event will be happening. Many of these barricades were up on New Year's Eve because there were some live performances open to the public from the Cape Town Parade opposite the City Hall into neighboring streets all the way up to the Boekap. You know, families stretched out on camping chairs, sitting, enjoying some snacks, some vetkoek and some samosas, waiting to see those crowds coming through. And that is a festive thing on the calendar for today. Quite a contrast, Michelle, from being at Polar Park last night. I know you've been leading with that story this morning. So as much as the city is doing those festivities on its calendar for 2023, residents in Polar Park, the victims of the latest fire we know about in the city metro, are calling for housing and urging the city to act to give them more formal tenements so that they're not vulnerable to rapidly spreading shack fires as occurred on New Year's Day just in those early hours at Polar Park.
Yeah, Polar Park, just one of them. There was also the fire at noon on the 30th. And, of course, on the 31st as well, New Year's Eve in Masiphumelele. Erin Bates, as always, a pleasure. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us this morning.